Right here.
Greetings, fellow book lovers, and welcome back to Colin's Corner, and welcome to the very first episode of Books and Basketball. So, I have with me here the apparently ex Harlem Globetrotter converted
Yeah.
to booktuber, Dan from the
Yeah.
Black and Blue
Uh-huh.
Collar Reader. Dan, you want to
Sure.
introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Dan from the Black and Blue Collar Reader. I'm doing a little globetrotter for you here. All right. I don't know if I pulled that off or not, but Colin hit me up for his first books in basketball, so I had to break out the my kids' basketball and show you guys that I got a little skill. Probably one of my first loves. Baseball, sports in general was probably one of my first loves.
That's awesome. What's up, Britton? You don't
Britton,
have
what's
to be a
going on?
basketball fan to be here. Glad you stopped
Now
in,
we're going
though,
to
man.
talk about books. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost is going to be books, but just a little bit of a background on why I decided to start this. And I'm glad that Dan was my first guest because, Dan was one of my first friends I made here on BookTube, fellow content creator. And there's a lot of live discussion series that are on BookTube right now, which I love. I'm a huge fan of them. It's like a podcast about books. But I kind of wanted to wait and start one on my channel when I felt like I had a fun idea that I was excited about. And so if I'm not reading, or even when I'm reading sometimes in the background, I am usually watching basketball. I've grown up loving basketball, watching it with my family and stuff like that. And so I wanted to seek out other booktubers that had similar interests to me. And hey, Caleb, how you doing? And Dan was one of the first people I thought of. Um, so I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I think we've chopped it up. I know you're a Bulls fan, I'm a Sixers fan, and we definitely talked
Yeah,
a little bit about basketball and yeah, phew, I grew up a sports fan, and that was just my family's thing. The thing that we could all talk about in my family without getting into an argument. Well, maybe we got into a few arguments about trades and things like that, but yeah, sports was definitely my first one of my first loves, and it was kind of bred into me. Living outside of Philadelphia and things like that, I just kind of end up being a fan because my whole family was. I kind of had to be.
that's awesome. Well, I guess this
Mhm.
will kind of bring us into nicely our first stage of the game. This is kind of the pre-game warm-up, so I
Mhm.
figured Dan and I could do a little bit of catching up, which is what we are kind of working at right now. And I guess I want to start like I was telling Dan before we got on here, since this is primarily we both run booktube channels. The questions I ask will answer book related and basketball related answers. So we'll start with the books. What are you reading right now?
So because I threw a lot of shade at Lovecraft, I think in my last video, I somebody told me to go read Lovecraft Country. I believe that was actually Caleb who is in the comments. And so I picked up Lovecraft Country because, I have the Libby app and I have access to so many books and audiobooks that I can just get one and start it and see if I like it. And Lovecraft Country is one that is sticking right now, as well as This Is How We Win the Time War, something like that, with the two
Okay.
birds on the front. That's a short one, which I'm thinking. So when I get these audiobooks, I like to see if this is one I can do on audio, or if is it one that I would probably rather read the book and kind of be a little more immersed into it. This Is How We Win the Time War. I believe that's the name. I believe that's something I might just want to pick up and read physically rather than listen to on audio. So yes, I was doing Lovecraft Country, and I started Howling Dark last night. So,
Oh, nice. Nice.
and I
Very
am
nice.
getting through Memories of Ice at some point. I'm right there. I'm like 100. I got 100
You're
pages
close.
left. Yeah, I got to,
How have
and
how have you not just blown through that?
it's an excellent question, to be honest. I think it was because, I picked up Memories of Ice back in April. And then that's when I got this Libby app. So the book addict in me just has gone into this Libby app and just sort of searched books that maybe I want to read, and started listening to them first and see if I liked it, or I kind of got addicted to the Libby app. And it was picked up and it was put down, but I kept going, and each time I picked it up, Erickson's so descriptive. You really don't forget scenes. You really, when I pick his book up, I'm right back to where I started, like I never left. So it was easier. He's a slow burn. This one, there is a cool siege in the middle. This one's actually pretty nicely paced. But there's a lot. You're getting to know a lot of people. There's a lot going on. And it's a massive book, and I've just been happy with standalones. I've been reading series a lot when I pick back up reading again. And I don't believe gotten, you know, I've gotten writing down, is what I'm trying to say, is because, so when I started, I read A Song of Ice and Fire, right? That was what kicked me off into like loving to read books. I read that, and then I started looking up fantasy, and everybody, I ended up reading epic fantasy. So you're reading lots of books by one author. So you're really not
Right.
expanding your palette. Seeing what different writers do. You're getting one or two. I got Abercrombie. I got Sanderson, and I read a lot of Sanderson. I read the whole Mistborn. I read half of Oathbringer, and I read Words of Radiance. And then, I was told Robert Jordan. I read three of his books. And so this is all very similar writing style, especially Sanderson and Jordan. But Abercrombie, I really didn't get to many authors, so I really didn't get flavors of writing. And now I'm starting to do that. That's why I got addicted to Libby. I'm going in and I'm
Yeah.
reading an author quickly and saying, "Hey, does this vibe with me?" Um, Stephen Graham Jones vibed with me. With
Yes.
I read that Night of the Mannequins recently. It was quite good, and it's just been I've been wanting to expand my palette and try other writers. So I've put Memories of Ice down and I pick it up here and there.
Awesome. Well, I want to take a second here to say hi to some of the people that have stopped in. We have Trucker here. He says this is
Hey,
a cool
hey.
concept. I haven't watched much NBA this year. What's up with the in-season tourney? I suppose we can probably get into that when we talk in the second quarter. I don't
Yeah.
fully understand it, but it seems like a cool concept. I think the gist of it is that they wanted to raise the stakes of like
Yeah,
the
I
regular
thought
season a little bit.
that teams that excelled, they got pay bumps or something, or some
Yes,
sort of
there's a
bonus.
there's like a prize
So
pool
right. So the
that
the
they can pull
players
from.
definitely have something to play for in the beginning of the season. And actually, I found it interesting. Other than the floor that they changed. The floors are just messing me up. They're very bright. They're
Bad.
loud. They're loud. These floors. They're very bright colors all over the place, and you're just like it hurts your eyes. Mhm.
Yeah. We've got Chaz here. What's up, Chaz? Alicia. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. We have Shady Side Library. I just found his channel recently because he commented on one of my Stephen
I
King
uh
videos, I believe it
I
was.
love that name. I'm gonna have to go check him out right
It's
now.
actually, yeah, he's got a very cool vibe going on. Big Stephen King fan. Of course, we have
Okay.
Kevin in here,
What's up, Kev? Haven't
Jared from the
seen
Fantasy Thinker.
you guys around.
What's up, Usman? We've got Nate. It's a full house. All
Oh,
right.
all right. Thanks for coming out, guys.
Yeah,
I knew
absolutely.
you wanted to see me break my computer with trying to spin the ball on my
Right.
finger. hmm I
So
didn't.
last thing I
I
had for
promise.
pregame was, which I think we kind of answered this already. You are unfortunately, a 76ers fan, correct? We need to
I
set the
absolutely.
tables.
Yeah, all Philadelphia, and they're
You're all
if
Philly.
yeah, I do not stray at all from Philadelphia teams, and to be completely honest, other than football, I really don't follow every other team other than my team or those teams in my divisions.
Okay, that
hmm
makes sense.
Yeah,
And I
so
am obviously, for those that don't know, I'm a Bulls fan. So we are Eastern Conference, I would say right now, opponents. The Bulls are not worthy of being rivals for anybody at the moment,
not now. hmm
unfortunately. Um, but all right, so Dan's a Philly fan. I'm a Bulls fan. I guess that'll take us into our first quarter. So the first quarter, I just kind of wanted to touch on origins of interest, and we'll start with books. Like I said, I want to focus on books first because I feel like most of the people here are here for the books. So what got you into reading? You could answer, what got you back into reading, because I know you and I are both kind of like rekindled readers.
yeah,
Were you ever
basically.
a big reader as a kid? So where did your love of reading kind of start?
The love of reading, I believe the love of reading is something new for me. Growing up, I didn't really have that, even though, I picked up the Lord of the Rings in high school because, Led Zeppelin told me to. So I read that and it was very boring. I was in high school and I really wanted action, I think, and things like that. And I think, my mind at that age in 16, 17, 15, just I couldn't focus on a book or sit still for any amount of time. Um, so, I went to college and things like that, and I never read for pleasure. And then, um, Harry Potter came out, and my aunt was a big Harry Potter fan, and I watched the first three movies, and then I decided to read the fourth book. And I remember reading the fourth book and being like, wow, I get why people love to read now. I remember gripping the page pretty hard during the Triwizard tournament in that book and, almost tearing a page. And I read the rest of the series. But I wouldn't say it was something that I wanted to do every day. That didn't happen until well into my 40s, and the Game of Thrones show had ended. It's probably my favorite show of all time, and I wanted to find something like that to enjoy. And I read all the books as the series was going on, and when it ended, I just had a void to fill, and I tried books, and I looked up the authors, and fantasy authors. Everybody said Brandon Sanderson and The Wheel of Time, so those were my first ones. And then I heard about Grimdark, so I went to Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence, and I liked that. But then all of a sudden, I heard about Abercrombie. And I started to read Abercrombie, and right by book two, at the end of book two, I was and I just that entire book and finishing certain things and being like, damn, that was good. Like, wow, holy, that was great. And trying to, talk to my wife about it, and she's like, I didn't read it, and just, and I love that series. I bought the rest of his other series was, coming out as I was reading that one, and I just got hooked on Abercrombie. And then, of course, I went out in the booktube. and started looking around, and basically the rest is history. I became an avid reader as soon as I finished the first Law series. I would say about
So
3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
so first law is your real like that was your aha, like, oh, this is
That
what this reading thing's
that
about.
this is what this is about. Definitely finishing a scene and just being speechless, and wanting somebody to just share in that experience with. It was I'm not getting that out of TV anymore at my age, in my opinion. I like fantasy shows. I like darker fantasy shows, and what's out there is just really not landing. And I wanted to go out and find stories again that I really enjoyed. And reading Abercrombie, I was just like, I can find exceptional joy in this. I get a lot out of it. My mind slows down. I develop patience, and reading has just been a good thing for me, and and also a bad thing for me because I have an addictive personality, and many people know about in my videos. If you're at the end, you see that I do mention that, but that goes for a lot of things for me, and it's like my when I get passionate about something, I go hard on it. I like all out. And when after Abercrombie, it was like booktube 24/7. What can I find? What should I read next? And I really throw all my attention towards something as soon as I find joy in it.
Yeah, and I think something that you said really resonated with me too when I kind of refound reading and because I used to read a lot when I was a kid, but I had been, I read some Stephen King and like there were some scenes and some moments where it just left me speechless. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Like, and I was doing the same thing. I was trying to talk to my wife about it. And how do you talk to your friends or your wife about like a book six or something in a series when
Hmm.
it just doesn't hit the same. So I think that for similar reasons, we have landed in this chair and decided to finally turn the camera on. I want to say hi to a couple more people. We got Derek here.
Hey, Derek, I'm gonna
How's it
get a
going,
drink real
Derek?
quick.
Go ahead. I've always been dreadful at basketball. I appreciate you stopping by, Derek. Chaudia, of course. Hello, Chaudia. Nate says, I always thought the Bucks Bulls rivalry was a bit made up, at least in my lifetime. That's probably true. I know the Bucks knocked us out a couple years back. Not much of a game. The Bulls
It was
are,
all because you were getting better and they were getting better, I think. So I don't
yeah.
I never saw that. I mean, it's Bulls Pistons in my day, right? It was Bulls
Oh, yeah, the
Pistons.
bad boys.
Those were the days, right?
We do have a mutual antagonist here in Jared because he's a Celtics fan. So I
No.
don't know, man. The
He's all right. He's allowed to be a Celtics fan with that accent.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you can
He is
definitely
a
tell
homer through and through.
he's a Boston guy.
He
Hmm.
is.
And that's okay.
Trucker
He
said Harry Potter had some good sports sections. It actually did
it
have
really
like
did.
some of the
Hmm.
Quidditch matches were very
We're
well described, like intricate detail, and I kind of
Yeah.
felt like they translated really well to the movies.
Say whatever you
I've
want to
heard
say
of
about.
combat codes. Have you heard of combat codes?
Yes, it's actually written by someone who is, very well versed in jujitsu, I believe. I know Theo from the Rekindled Reader was reading it. I
Okay.
believe he might have he was planning on having them on his channel. He might have, but I don't remember particularly. Oh, we got a Kings fan in the chat.
Yes,
I
y'all. We are
remember
cool to chill in here.
White Chocolate. Was that what they called him, right?
Yeah,
Jason.
Jason Williams, right?
Oh man, what a passer! What a a Pete Maravich type player. He was a spectacular player to watch for
White
sure.
chocolate. Yeah, that was he had. It was him and Chris Webber, I think, right for a while
Yep, Chris
back in that
Webber
team.
for a
Yeah, that was
while.
a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
Um, Thanks for stopping by, Matt. By the way, the Kings are like one of those teams that are in the league right now that are just hard to hate. You know, they're having a blast. They've got the light the beam thing going, and they've got a lot of likable personalities there. So I can't begrudge anybody for being a Kings fan. Um, the second portion of the first quarter is going to shift to basketball. So, what were your origins of interest for basketball? How did you get into basketball? Was it always something your family was into? Was it something you discovered on your own and fell in love with, or a mixture of both? How did
Wow,
that happen for you?
this is crazy. So you're bringing up a story here that I just totally forgot about. Um, and this might take a minute, but I'm going to try to do my best because you know how
Floor is
I end
yours.
up going in circles. So basketball specifically, okay? Um, so from 1 to 10, I lived with my mom and my dad. And then at 10, I moved in with my grandmother and my aunt. And that's when I moved to New Jersey and Atlantic City. That's where I grew up, right? And the school that I went to was a private school. And it was a private school without a basketball team at all, no sports team. It was a very, very private school to like, there was only like 10 kids in each class.
Wow.
Um, Somehow my grandparents got me in there. I don't know how, but anyway, somehow they got me into this school, and it wasn't. It was called the Hebrew Academy, right? It was very small, a Jewish school, and I go in there, and I got an earring in fifth grade. You know, I have a skater's haircut and stuff. If you guys don't remember Tony Hawk, he had the all bald with the hair over the eye. Like I was rocking that, right? And I go into this school, and I'm like this cool kid. You know that many of the kids were very proper. That's in things and well to do, so to speak. And that was not me. And they did not have a basketball team. And all of a sudden, the principal's like, "Man, this kid right here's got some athletic talent." There was a JCC next to the school, and that's where we used to go for gym. And we started shooting basketball. So the rabbi, the principal of the school, was like, "I'm going to start a basketball team with this kid." Right, and we start a basketball team, and it's me and we couldn't find enough athletic people that I had to bring my little brother in who was in second grade. It was me and my brother. I'm in fifth, he's in second, and like I'm like trying to get these other kids who are very unathletic, to play ball. And we got uniforms and stuff, and we played, other schools and things. And these I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but that there were these, schools that would come in and thought, hey, we're just going to beat these. Let's be honest, we're going to beat these Jewish kids' asses, right? I'm not going to beat around the, we got, I will, I was called things. Anyway, when I started playing, and I had my little brother who, went through all of this moving with my grandmother. We were very close, my little brother, 4 years apart. We played sports constantly.
That's
He's
awesome.
on the team. And I'm posting people up, and I was pretty hefty. And I could lay the ball up and tap the backboard at like in fifth and sixth grade. And I was pretty good, to be honest. And these guys came in, and all of a sudden I'm getting the ball, and they don't know what to do with me. And I'm doing really well. And that's actually how I got to know some of the kids in my area that actually, because I did not continue on with that school after eighth grade. I went into Atlantic City High School,
Okay.
which is a complete culture shock. If if you guys want to know, anyway, um, So yeah, and then I went on to play for Atlantic City High School, which was definitely a hard team to make. You really had to put your effort in. I did really well, but then in high school I was kind of a bad kid. My grades started slipping, so by junior year I wasn't really playing basketball anymore. I still played baseball, but yeah, I we started me, my little brother, and my aunt started a team for this private school. We were the first, team that they ever had, and they continued to have that basketball team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even until at one point, the school started growing and it got bigger and more kids started going. And at one point, I was asked to coach their girls' basketball team.
Wow, what an honor.
Yeah,
That's really
because they
cool,
yeah,
man.
they couldn't find I was a substitute teacher for the school for a little while, and while I was doing that, they're like, "Hey, can you coach our girls basketball team?" Well, and yeah, I was like, "No problem." And I coached the girls basketball team for like a year.
Wow. Hey,
Yeah.
Ka is a wheel and it keeps on turning, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Um, Claudia said the author, I'm assuming she was referring to the combat codes, was on Chatting with Nuts recently. I am backlogged on Chatting with Nuts. I have to watch the last few of those.
Yeah,
So I
I
will
need to
definitely
catch
check
up
that
on
one
his
out.
he said he had November was really good. I didn't see that video yet,
Yeah, I watched
but
his wrap up, Jimmy's wrap
yeah,
up.
I didn't see that one yet.
You've got a fellow Philly lifer in Alicia here.
Yep, yep.
Um,
Mhm.
Alicia's awesome. And Mike stopped by, the author of
Mike.
The Protectors of Pratani, which is a series I'm very much so enjoying right now. So hello, Mike. Thanks for stopping by.
Very cool.
Um, all right, let's move on to the second quarter here. So the second quarter, I kind of wanted to talk about. I'm going to call it the state of the game. So in terms of books, are
Mhm.
you enjoying the stuff that you're reading right now? Are you enjoying, I guess, the lane you're in? I know you kind of started with fantasy, right? Like
Yeah.
mainly, and recently
Mhm.
you've kind of started to branch out. You've
I
touched
have.
some manga, you've touched
Yes.
some different types of fiction, some kind of wackier off the
Yeah, some new
stuff. So,
weird fiction. So I started off this is just I love the journey, right? I started off, a Song of Ice and Fire fan. I was going to be a fantasy fan. That is what spoke to me, right? And then you start reading and I wanted something. I wanted some change. I actually started trying mystery or Gone Girl. I tried Gone Girl. That was very good book to be in the head of two sociopaths.
yeah,
It was an excellent book. And then I just started to I really liked weird fiction. In the beginning, weird fiction is basically just horror mixed with fantasy. And H.P. Lovecraft, and people would say that even Edgar Allan Poe started to write in that genre. And I read A Darkness That Comes Before, and that has a lot of horror elements to it. It's dark, body horror, and there's
that's R.
some
Scott
things that
Baker,
go
right?
on. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry, R. Scott Baker, and it was I really love that horror and fantasy blend. So I once I started asking around, people were like, yeah, give this a try, give this a try, and off I went into different genres. And also being liking more grimdark things. You always hear about Blood Meridian, so now you go read somebody like McCarthy and like, wow, like this is something different, and you start reading him, and it's just great to be on this journey of learning different styles and different writing and things like that.
that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot of your videos recently. I'll say like the last 5 or 6 months, you've been trying some manga, trying some of this weird fiction you've been talking about. Your most recent
Yeah.
video, I did not get to watch. what was your most recent review on? I forget the
My
book
most
title.
recent review is cool because I really have it like right here. Anyway, it's one of the best books that I've ever read. It's just a different style. This author took a bunch of risk using a lot of POV changes. He uses first person, second person, and third person, and
Oh wow.
yeah, it's a very cohesive story. In the video, you know how they have a certain style of heavy metal. There is a heavy metal fantasy that we have that we've heard of you know, Michael Moorcock. Elric Saga is like a heavy metal style fantasy, and I have deemed this as a psychedelic rock style fantasy. And I provide all the reasons why I believe that, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the drugs. Okay. I even no, I didn't even touch on it. You know, it was about structure change and thinking outside the box and how he just melts these POVs together. You know, it was an interesting video, and this was an exceptional book, The Spear That Cuts Through Water.
Absolutely. So if I'm not mistaken, this is me being a poor Discord administrator. Are we starting read along of this in our Discord? I thought I heard
Yes,
somebody say.
we
Okay.
are starting one on January 1st because we're all going to kick this year off correct with an excellent book. And yeah, come down to our Discord, join in the Spear Cuts everything, read along, and yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to, you know, take our time with it because I would love everybody to have a chance. We'll read half the book in January, half the book in February, and we'll be doing a wrap up at the end of January on my channel. We're going to do a live for whoever wants to join. I don't If everybody's like, I love this so much, I'll come on. I'll put people in the holding room and I'll just have people come on and tell us about it, you know. And I would love for people just to come on and gush about this author because honestly, I've read both of his books. I think he's the next best thing, in my opinion. You know,
Wow,
and again, I've just started my reading journey, but I'm so happy that Evie from She Was Only Evie sent me this book because I'm in love with this author and his writing.
that's awesome. Well, hey,
Mhm.
I'll link our Discord, the Unexpected Party
Yeah,
Discord, in the description of this video. If anyone watching isn't a member yet and you want to join us for that, that would be a lot of fun. I guess I'm probably gonna hop on that too. That sounds like a really awesome experience.
yeah, I
Uh,
would love to hear everybody's thoughts on it.
Second, so we'll shift now to basketball again. The nature of this question kind of came about because for the last 5 or 6 years, I've not been a big football fan, NFL football,
Hmm.
and part of the reason is because I don't enjoy the product being put on the field all the time. I think I don't understand football as a game as well as I understand basketball, but a lot of times football for me doesn't pass the eye test. Like it isn't always an enjoyable experience. I don't understand why certain penalties are called, why certain things aren't called, and
Okay.
stuff like that. So, in terms of that realm of things, do you enjoy the state of the game of the NBA right now specifically? Because I think we both mainly watch the NBA.
Yeah,
Do you like the style of play right now? Do you like the
the style
officiating?
so the style of play, I enjoy that. You know, we're spreading the floor out with centers that can hang out around the 3 point line. You know, it's become the three ball has definitely taken over, I think. You know, the style of play, I the officiating in my I think I'm like you as to where I don't understand what's a penalty, what is a foul, and what is not in this game anymore. And I believe I hate, you know, I'm going to be the old guy that says this game has gotten soft. It has, and when players are going for the foul first rather than the bucket, that's where I have a problem. We
Yep.
have people going to lane expecting contact, thinking more about the contact they're trying to get than the basket they are trying to make.
Yeah.
It wasn't that way in the 80s and 90s. You went to the hole, you went hard, and you made sure that you got that bucket, not the foul. Um, and I believe, you know, I don't understand what is and what isn't, because when we're talking about James Harden, that's right. That's exactly who I'm talking about, because he was on
Yeah.
my team last year, and I could not stop yelling at the screen about his style of play. Like my kids watch that. Um, that's not I know, these aren't role models, but when my kids are emulating what they see on TV and basketball to learn how to play the game,
Right.
because they're doing that stuff on the court, that's a different thing for me. If you want to showboat and stuff, go ahead. My kids are still watching. I'm still going to say, don't be that guy in certain
Right.
areas. But I don't like the soft play, the expecting of fouls every time you go. Like, don't look at the ref. And if I see a player that isn't like that, like, I'm automatically liking you. A player that's not always whining at the refs all the time. I can't stand that. That has turned me off to basketball, in my opinion, and even with my own team.
Yeah. No, I think you touched on one of the biggest points, and my biggest issue with this is that it feels like star treatment mainly because there's stars like Harden, and as amazing as Joel Embiid is, he is also one of the biggest
He's
culprits of complaining to the ref.
biggest. I
Luka
hate it.
Doncic,
I hate it.
um, these guys are like you said, they're expecting to get the foul call. It changes the way that other people play because if you see, James Harden getting the foul line 13, 14 times a game, these other dudes that don't have a name or haven't earned the respect yet, they're going to drive to the hole just like Harden does, but they don't get the calls. So then it just turns into a wasted possession. Then you've got everybody complaining about foul calls and not getting back on defense, and it seems like a star
I
effect.
hate
It's
it.
like why,
I hate
and
it.
it's got to be frustrating for the players too because what do you do? What do you continue
But
playing like that
that's
or
the way if they're giving it to them, like, stop giving it to them. Like, we have, I don't want to say bred, but we've bred the players to play this way. And, I hate games trying to be won at that foul line. I don't
yeah.
like that. I don't like that. Go
And
out
that's
and
on the league,
earn it. Hold, yeah, in my opinion, you're right. I think you're right. It is on the league.
that because if you can exploit the system
Hmm.
and Harden, for as much as he wails and moans, he's one of the best players in the league at exploiting the system. And he wins.
Hmm.
Maybe not championships, but hey,
Not
if
at
he's
all.
going to get the calls,
Not
why
him.
not?
Yeah.
Um, Tatum complains. Yeah, I feel like everybody. It's
Everybody
not.
does now.
I
It's
see it, man.
it's
Like even players that play a lot. And this kind of happened with football too. We have a lot of weird rules that happened because of star players. Like I feel like Tom Brady is a massive reason that you can't hit the quarterback
yeah,
anymore. I mean, you can't even like tackle players. How are you supposed to stop going 20 miles an
yeah.
hour just on at the drop of a dime? It's the same for basketball. Like you can't get in anybody's face anymore. God forbid you step in their landing space.
Yeah,
It's
that, and guys are sticking foots out instead of, hitting that three. They're
yeah,
they're they're trying to stick the foot out and not, pay attention to the basket. And it's just, it's very frustrating. And being a Philadelphia fan, it's even because Joel Embiid is one of the worst at doing it. And what kills me is the man is 7 foot.
he's
Like,
so good too.
don't hit the floor. Like, stop like flopping. You're too big to be hitting that freaking paint. Like, that's, stop it.
Yeah,
And he's hurt himself. He's probably, I don't think he has 2 or 3 more good years left in him.
yeah, yeah. What's up, Shad? By the way, Very happy to see Sean here. Yeah,
Shad.
all players from
Shad's a
playing.
big fan, right? I think he's a
Oh
big
yeah, he's.
basketball fan. Hmm.
I've been chatting in
Do you know what
Jimmy's
team he likes?
Discord.
Was he a
I think
Suns?
I can't remember it off the top of
Can't
my head. I
remember.
know
Tell us who you like, Shad.
he's a fan of a lot of different sports and a lot of different teams.
Yeah.
But I think that about does it for our second quarter, which is going to bring us guys to our halftime show. There's not going to be like a special guest or anything. It's still going to be just Dan and I. But I figure
Hey,
we
that's
might
as
be able to do
special as it
something.
comes. Don't sell yourself short, bro.
That's very true. That's very true. I figured we could do something a little fun here, and we're gonna do a Mount Rushmore. So your top four, and this could be current, this can be all time, however you want to interpret this. Who are your top four favorite authors, either right now or all time? And you can talk about why if you want to, but if you had to pick
Yeah.
four of your favorite authors, like you could only read these four authors for the rest of your life, or these four authors have impacted you the most, however you want to think of it, what would those four be right now?
Right now. It's a good question. So I think due to nostalgia, even though nostalgia is only 4 years ago, it's going to be obviously Abercrombie is the one who really started this for me, this reading journey of mine. Um, so Abercrombie has to be one, and then I think most people will know that it's going to be R. Scott Baker, will be another. However, he is a tough author to really grasp. I do love his writing, poetic, dark, um, you know, philosophical. He just does everything amazingly. So after Baker, you know what? I'm going with my new guy Simon Jimenez right now.
Wow. Okay.
Two books. Listen, to put two books out and for both books to be, you know, this is a five, and gonna read Vanished Birds again, but that could be the writing. His writing's exceptional. And if he puts out something else, even remotely close to this, he's going to get up there for me. I mean, you landed on both books you put out, so that is going to be. I'm going to go with that as well as. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, who do I got? Simon. I was going to say somebody. You know what? Another one. I got it. Read two
Okay.
books. Read two books by this author. Both of them 5 star, easy 5 stars right now. Okay, it's going to be Ray Bradbury.
Wow, that's a great pull. Okay. You
Hmm.
were just telling me the other day about
Yep.
something wicked this way comes.
Yes. That so Fahrenheit 451 was my first book that I read by him. If you guys don't know and you live in America, go read that book now. I'm telling you now. Um, yeah, that book was awesome, and something wicked this way comes was amazing. So he is really up there for me right now, and I really can't. You know what? Christopher Rocchio, his first book, Empire of Silence, another great writer, and I'm starting another of his books right now. So I think he might creep in there because he's got a way with words, man.
That's a great. So you have Abercrombie, you
Hmm.
have Jimenez. Is that how you pronounce it? Jimenez,
Jimenez, yep. Hmm.
Jimenez,
Hmm.
R. Scott Baker, and Ray
Bradbury,
Bradbury.
yeah, Ray
It's a
Bradbury
very
right now.
interesting.
Hmm.
Okay. We've got. Let's see. We've got Philip Chase. Only four authors. Hey, well, we like to apply the pressure here. We ask the hard questions, Philip.
Yeah.
It
I'm
doesn't have
sorry.
to be all
That was
time.
You got to my fourth, and that was difficult.
Four is tough.
I definitely started King. Now King kind of, I threw Bachman in there with King. I don't know if that's fair or not, but I read The Long Walk, and I was kind of meh about that. I really did not enjoy the characters. I enjoyed the overall premise, but then of course I read The Dark Tower and The Drawing of Three.
Oh man,
Both five for me, both 5 stars, and totally different styles, man. And still, both landed. And I definitely want to read more King. Yeah,
we've got some other people in here wanting to read some Baker, including myself. Um, Shad says his would be John Gwynn, Brandon Sanderson, George R. R. Martin, and Abercrombie. That's a heavy hitting list.
it is.
Um, and yes, Shad making shout out to Alan doing the audiobooks for Phillips. I'm going to read Phillips' books
Yes.
for sure, and I'm also going to listen to Alan's audiobook recordings when they come out. Um, I know Philip's a Dark Tower fan. I can. My mom actually is reading through it right now, and she just, yeah, Philip just said Dark Tower is in my top 10. So, um, she just started the drawing of the three as well. And
Would that
man,
be
there's a
series
scene.
or the single book? I'm wondering. Is Dark Tower is that in his top 10
No, I think
series?
he's referred to Dark Tower the series in his top 10 series of all time.
Series. Okay, I thought the first book. Not that's
Yeah,
the gunslinger. There, I think the last.
the
Okay,
last
I
book
get
is
it.
called The Dark Tower. Yeah.
Exactly, that's it. Okay, all
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He meant the series, and yes, I've Wastelands. I want to start. I got so many things I want to start. I just
I
wish I could
know,
quit my job and read all day. It's
right? Don't we
the
all?
the. I didn't say that, all right? Because
Just don't let your wife hear it, and you're good.
yeah, she. I think they all went upstairs, but she knows. I think she understands. She gets what I want. She I was always I would love to just escape and read books all the time.
Yeah. Well, I do it late at night.
Mhm.
We have some love for the Martian Chronicles by
I yeah,
Bradbury.
that's one actually, which is really interesting. Like I said, Caleb from Celebrity, he suggested Lovecraft Country, and that book is mentioned in Lovecraft Country,
Oh
which
wow.
is really
Okay.
cool. Asimov is mentioned within that book as well as Bradbury, because one of your protagonists is a reader, which is very cool.
Sweet. Yeah, Shad's with us. He would love to quit his job and read all day and watch
Yeah,
sports.
yeah,
Wouldn't we
me
all?
too. Yeah, that would be my halftime would be sports. It would be like first quarter ebook, second quarter, halftime would be my sports, and then go back to my books and.
Speaking of halftime, we'll get to the second part of the halftime show, which is your Mount Rushmore of players. Again, this can be
Players.
your interpretation all time, or you could answer it who are your top four favorite players to watch in the league right now. Whatever you want to go with.
Wow, right now. Yeah, so I'm going. So for me, I'm a Jordan person. There was nobody who did it better. For me, there was nobody that I just like books. Like I would be, my jaw would be on the floor after watching him, and he just commanded the game, which I don't see many people do as well as he did. He is my goat, at least. Um, we're gonna have to go with Sir Charles for my
Okay.
second. All right,
Wow. Okay.
Charles Barkley. If you see him on TNT, he talks about him being a Suns person. That guy is a Philadelphia player and was one of the best players that we have ever had on our teams. I'm going to go another Philly player right now who's my favorite player right now, but I don't like how he's kind of talking to the refs. But his name is Tyrese Maxey. He is on the Sixers right now. I love his game. He's very quick. He was a young guy. It's so good to see him develop, and he is now becoming what could be the future of our team moving forward because Embiid is getting older.
I
Um,
love Maxey, and I'm so mad as a Bulls fan because he's in the Eastern Conference, but I think the Sixers made the right choice in sticking with him and not keeping Harden.
Oh, I wouldn't have had it. I would have ran down to that front office and lit it on fire if they got rid of Tyrese Maxey. Other than
Yeah,
I think there was whisperings about KD coming, and they would, that even that I didn't even want to get rid of Maxey because I really just love his whole vibe as well.
he's
Uh,
awesome.
he seems to be a gentleman on and off the court, though he is starting to complain to the refs a little more. I bet that's the coaching though. I bet coaches are telling him to do that, and that's how you get a win. But he's one of my favorites, and I'm gonna go with an old one. All
Okay.
right, and so my aunt, who raised me when I went to move with my grandmother, my aunt raised me, and she was a sports person. She loved she loved hockey. She was a big Philadelphia sports fan, and we all became Philadelphia sports fans because of her and my grandparents. Um, and she loved a player, and me and my brother started loving this old player. And then a movie came out about this old player. I forget what the movie was called, but the player's name, I've already mentioned him once in this, is Pistol Pete Maravich. Um,
Great pick.
another showman, innovator of the game, could shoot as well. Most people looked at his passes, but he was just exceptional, and my aunt loved him, and in turn my brother and I ended up loving him and trying to like look up all his old games,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
we tried, like, you saw me spinning the ball.
Yeah.
In the movie about him, I forget what it's like Pistol Pete something, but it was me and my brother loved this movie. And the reason I can spin that ball is because in the movie, the kid, one of the, bully kids bets the kid he couldn't spin it on his finger for an hour, right? And the kid's like, and Pistol Pete's like, okay, and he spins it on his finger and then his thumb and then this and then his head, and then he keeps it spinning for the entire hour, and he walks out to the basketball court as he's spinning and they're counting down, and he throws the ball up and he headbutts it into a bank shot into the basket, and it was just you know it was awesome. It was an awesome movie, and I emulated Pistol Pete, and you can see that when I was spinning that ball. That's why
That's awesome.
I learned that because of that movie and Pistol Pete Maravich.
Sweet. All right. So a halftime recap. Your authors were Abercrombie, Baker, Jimenez, and Bradbury.
Yep.
That's your Mount Rushmore for authors, and your Mount Rushmore for players is Maxi,
Hmm.
Pistol Pete Maravich, Jordan, and Charles Barkley.
Correct.
Great
I'm
picks.
gonna
Great,
stick with
great
those too.
picks.
There's a lot of players that I really loved back in the day.
Hey, you
Sean
said it
Kemp.
live, so
There was a lot of players I really grew up loving back in the day, but those are my picks right now. I'm gonna stick
solid
with, and
picks. Let's look at
I mean,
let's take a look at Phillips'
Dr.
top
J
four
got beat
authors.
out. Hmm.
These are Phillips' top four
So
authors.
I
He's
have,
got Erickson, Tolkien, Hobb, Le Guin. I've not read Le Guin yet. Abercrombie, which, believe it or not, I have not read yet. Lawrence, N.K. Jemisin,
I
Janny
wanna
Wirtz, Stephen
the
King, Neil Gaiman. A
so
very interesting array of
yeah,
styles here.
it's true.
This is a great pick. Larry Bird would have been a great pick.
Bird is a great pick. Definitely a
Um,
great pick.
LeBron, Tim Duncan, KD, and Steph. Shad says of the players he's watched. That's a fantastic. I've argued this for a few years now, and LeBron, the longer he plays, the more I respect him. I'm obviously a Jordan is my goat, but I would argue that Steph Curry has changed the game of basketball far more than LeBron James has. he has
Yeah.
impacted the game of basketball far more than LeBron
I,
James has.
I would agree with you because I believe who are you comparing Steph Curry to?
He's the
All
barometer.
right. Who do we always compare LeBron to? There was already a
Jordan.
Michael Jordan. There will
Yeah.
never be another one. Michael changed the game. Just like, Curry, Steph has
Yeah.
changed the game. So there
Yeah.
are two very, also, the people like Wilt Chamberlain being so tall changed the game, back
Bill
in the
Russell.
day. Bill
Bill
Russell.
Russell has
Hmm.
11 championships,
Yeah.
and he was an amazing civil rights advocate, like
Yeah.
a complete role model for children.
Hmm.
An amazing guy. Um, all right, well, it was a pretty great halftime show, which is going to bring us into the third quarter. So we're coming out of halftime. You have a chat with your coach, with your teammates. Are you making any adjustments in what you're reading right now? Are you making any changes, or do you like where you're at? Do you think you've got a lead? You like the way you're playing? You like where you like the genres you're reading? What's going on in your
I
halftime conversation?
I am always evolving. That is my thing, and I have many tastes. As you can see, I like books and frickin' basketball. Like these are some very far, apart hobbies. That I wish weren't so far apart, but I do believe that both those hobbies come with certain stigmas and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, you got your jock, and you got your nerds, and
Yeah.
then you bring them together and you got me, you know? So I'm always evolving. And like I said, I've jumped. Right now, I'm reading Savages by Don Winslow, and one of the lovely people that are in our Discord, Yolanda, and Carlos's channel. Go check them out. StoryTube. They both stated that Savages was just awesome. So I took their recommendations. Actually, this is going to be something I'm doing. I might even bring that out here. So I took Yolanda's recommendation. I also took Carlos's recommendation because I've said this before. He told me, he was like, listen, go expand your palette and switch genres. You want to understand the differences in writing and tone and style. You got to go. You got to, evolve and move into different genres. In fantasy, you're going to find different styles, but for the most part there's going to be a lot of the same structure and things like that. So I really went out there. I read Savages by Don Winslow. I loved it. I believe Carlos said that go check out the book that I mentioned earlier. That was Gone Girl. I
Oh,
read
yep.
that, and it really started, and I started to get outside my box because most in the beginning it was all series. What series could I read? What series could I read? And I was stuck in that series for months and months and months. I don't think I did a standalone. Shit, when was my first standalone? I don't know when I read my first standalone. It was probably only 2 years ago. I can't even remember what it was, but I was just like, when I finished the first standalone, I'm like, I need more standalones. I need that feeling of accomplishment. Um, but now you go back into Malazan, and I like that feeling um, of comfort,
Feels like home.
yeah, because of the way that world is built, and he builds that world. You definitely feel like you go home when you just jump back into a book like that. Yeah, so and I want to read classics. I've heard things about man, they're all escaping me. John Steinbeck. I believe somebody put out a video, telling me to go read one of his books. Um, I just want to taste all the flavors of the rainbow. You know.
Nate says, "Is Malazan considered cozy fantasy?" Uh,
I think I asked that about Lord of the Rings on somebody's live, and somebody got really upset. Is Lord of the Rings cozy fantasy? And I got hit back with, "It's one of the best things, you moron." And what's funny is the guy who was on the live knew I was joking with him because he knew me, but the person who responded to me didn't know who I was. But
oh, that's
anyway,
funny.
yeah, but I think the time in the Shire can be considered very cozy,
Yeah,
and it's a shame because I like going to library or bookstores these days because at first like I didn't have you guys to talk to. I remember going to the bookstores and like trying to talk to somebody in the fantasy section, like, "Hey, you like that? Check this out," trying to make a reading friend. And it was just when I started, I didn't have, too many people to talk about this with. And, building that community was one of the best things that I did with starting, my channel and things.
yeah. We'll jump back to some comments before we move on to the basketball aspect of this question. Jokic is really making a case. I mean, if he continues on the trajectory he's on, he's 100% going to be considered one of the best
Hmm.
players of all time. Um, LeBron doesn't have comparisons either. I think the comparison to Jordan is less their game and more so just their legacy, like the GOAT aspect of it. But Shaw's right. Kobe is like the second
I
coming,
think,
if there
yeah,
was one,
okay. He's
of
right.
Jordan.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
because their body styles were the same as well. Um,
yeah,
LeBron it
they were the
w-
same position.
is like 7'6'8" and jacked. Like
Yeah, he's
I don't think
a specimen.
they don't make them like that. That's just an alien. They do
Yeah,
not make people like that. And he's built like he's solid. I mean,
he could play tight end.
who was the number one pick that was real big, but he's like hefty. He's on New Orleans maybe.
Zion.
Zion.
Yeah,
Yeah, like he's that
he's
like
hurt all the time though.
he's because he's that big because they
Yeah,
they don't make him that big and look like LeBron. They make him that big and look like Zion with extra stuff.
yeah,
It's just unbelievable. He's a freak of nature, and I just don't. If you ever stand next to the man, you're just like, how does somebody guard that? He was so athletic, and so big. It's just unbelievable. He could have probably been in any sport he wanted to be in.
yeah. He could have played like tight end
Yep, easy.
easily.
Hmm.
Rozier stopped by. Said he's going to watch the
Hey,
replay. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. We got Alicia's top three, it looks like. So she has Jane Austen, Stephen Graham Jones, and Neil Gaiman.
Neil's
Um,
on my list.
I need to get some more Neil Gaiman. I've only read The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil
That's the one
Gaiman, which
I got suggested to read.
so bizarre and just awesome. I think you're gonna love it because you
Yeah,
like the
okay.
weirder aspect of things
Yeah,
and
I
is a
picked it up.
very
So
atmospheric.
mhm. That was one
Short
I
too.
picked up on audio, and I was like, I think I'm gonna want to just sit down and read this one.
I think that's a
Um,
good choice.
yeah.
And Alicia also, to circle back to your classics comment, she said classics are her jam. So maybe you'll have to hit Alicia up for some classics
Yes.
recommendations.
I mean, John Williams is on there. Is he considered classics? I'm not sure. I do really
I
want to
don't
read
know.
Butcher's Crossing. McCarthy is definitely, but I don't think these are classics. I think we're talking about like Steinbeck and Hemingway and things like that. Um, yeah, there's Tale of Two Cities. Is that Dickens? I
That's
forget.
Dickens, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been looking into these books and things like that as well.
Cool. So the second part of the third quarter of the game of basketball. Now we kind of touched on this a little bit. Um, would you make
What
any
do I want to
changes?
see changed is
Yeah.
the
Do you
yeah.
like where it's at? Would you make any changes? If so, what would they be? Do you like the product on the court right now?
So I want to say I don't like the product on the court, but that's not the case. They are putting on exciting games. I am entertained when I watch it. It is the fouls that are bothering me. The slowing down of the game. It's I think we should all you know, they should go back to the drawing board and really find out what is a foul and what isn't, because things are being called, things aren't. It's all, I know you get away, one player gets away with it and then another player doesn't. And it's like the same thing at the opposite ends. It's the same type of foul, same type of physical contact, and it's not being called. It's frustrating, and it's frustrating to see games, being won at the line. That can be exciting every now and again. But, when I'm getting down to the end and we're, you know, fouling people every 5 seconds, that just really is taking away from it. But I wish they would just come up with a solid, um, definitions of fouls and stop. If the players, if these refs are just finally like, what, I'm not calling that. The players are going to have to figure it out, and that's what I
Adjust.
think they
Yeah,
should be. Yeah, they're going to have to adjust, because they need to get the call from upstairs. These refs to be like, this is you can't do this anymore. This is ruining our game. Uh, but I don't think it's ruining the game. I think basketball has such a flavor.
yeah,
It's really out there in social media, and the game has really evolved not only on the court but off of the court.
I
Um,
agree. They're one of the most outspoken professional sports leagues when it comes to things like social justice
yeah,
and making
yes,
like they close the league down on voting days to like force people to go out and
I
vote, not
love
force
that.
people but remind them,
Yeah,
and that's
remind them.
worked for
Yeah.
me. Like it's
Hmm.
literally worked for me. Like 2 years ago, I woke up and I forgot it was a voting day,
Hmm.
and I co-commission a fantasy basketball league, and I was like, why is nobody playing today? And then I was like, oh yeah, the league's closed, I have to go vote. So stuff like that I think matters.
Yeah, I think the players have always been outspoken, and as they should be, because they are the product. They definitely make a lot of money, but people make a lot of money off of them as well. But basketball has just done an excellent job of marketing I can't think of too many jerseys that I don't like. I'm sorry, Matt. Other than the Kings jerseys, I'm not really feeling them.
Nah.
But most of the jerseys are pretty decent. Their clothing lines sell, these jerseys sell, these kids see. Who's the new hot one now? Who keeps pulling out guns at parties?
Ja
Ja
Morant.
Ja Morant, right? And everybody wants hair like Ja. Everybody wants sneakers like Ja. And you know what? Steph Curry too. These my kids are like, yeah, let me get them Currys, or those Currys are, nah, they weren't big on Curry, but Melo.
Oh yeah.
He said Mello, and I was like, "What? Carmelo Anthony's? I had Carmelo Anthony's back in the day. They were called Mellos." And he's like, "Nah, Lamar Ball or something, or Lamelo Ball."
LaMelo.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, damn, I got the wrong Mello. My bad."
That's funny.
My Mello just stopped playing not too long ago, I think.
Yeah. two
Yeah,
years
he
ago
was
I think he
still
was
in the
still
league.
playing.
Unbelievable. Carmelo Anthony. But yeah, they do an excellent job with marketing. I go to games. It's like a $200 to get on the floor. It's expensive. And it was a lot of fun, but each game I saw the last 2 years we've lost, so I'm not gonna go if I want them to win, you know?
Go to the next game they play against the Bulls then for me.
I have, so I'm going my see, this is great. Like I said, my kid, he is into basketball and he's into football too, and they really market well. To where my little one Noah, he knows Wemby. What's the guy's name on the Spurs? Wembaya?
Wembenyama.
Wembenyama. He could say his name and I couldn't. He knew, like, he's the number one pick this year, and that just happened this year with Noah, and I love that. Like I was just like,
That's
dude,
so
he
cool.
knows, and he's like, I want to go see Wembanyama. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put up some money so he can go see this guy, and we're gonna go see the Sixers and the Spurs on January 22nd,
That's really
and he gets to
exciting.
go. I really, but that's the thing, like, man, he better not be injured. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Yep.
risks you take, unfortunately. And I just hope we get a good game because, I took him the last time and we saw a loss by the Sixers. So hopefully we can get a good one this time.
It's fun when the family gets involved because I think I've successfully now converted my wife and daughter to actually being Bulls fans, not just because I am. And
Mhm.
my wife will text me like, "Hey, the Bulls are playing tonight," and I'm like, "Yes." She knows. And we've made the trip to Cleveland a couple times to see them play the Cavs, and it's really magical to like see your kids' face light up, when they see these people in person the first time and
Yeah,
get
when
to
you
see the
finally
game in
see how big,
person.
how large they are,
Yes.
because when you're looking at it on the television, you don't get that full experience. When you get down on the court and you're like, and the littlest, I'm talking the smallest guy on the court. You're like, yo, you're really a point guard? Like it's crazy. And then you see them do these athletic. They're huge, and they
Yeah,
just move so gracefully. It's unbelievable. You know?
it's amazing. Well, that's exciting. That's cool to hear that you're going to take your kid to see. Hopefully, Wemby plays
Yeah, he
um,
better.
when you go. So we're rounding it out.
All right.
Coming into the fourth quarter. Um, so my question for this is going to be the same for the books and the basketball. We'll start with the books again. What keeps you coming back in a world where we've got shows, podcasts out the wazoo? We've got YouTube, we've got TikTok, we've got whatever, Twitch, video games. What keeps you coming back to reading books?
Books are always better. The book is always better, folks. That's what keeps me coming back to books because I am very disenfranchised with the way Hollywood is going. I am a movie fan. I was a TV fan, like Breaking Bad and Dexter and The Sopranos and Game of Thrones. Like these were all amazing shows in my opinion. And I loved that feeling of getting there and getting everybody together and watching it and things like that. And I don't think that Hollywood has really given me anything lately. I would say the last two things that I was just like, wow, this is awesome, happened to be anime, happened to be Arcane, and now Blue Eye Samurai. That is just so good. I just watched all of Blue Eyed Samurai, and I suggested that my kid go watch it because he's like 15, and I'm trying to bond with
Yeah.
him, and he likes anime, and I suggested it to him, and then I watched episode 8 of Blue Eyed Samurai, and then I called my kid up because they don't really talk to me face to face. You got to call them and they're in the other room, right? So I called him up. I'm like, dude, that show's horrible. Do not watch this show. If you do, do not watch episode 8. Okay. And he's 15. So, if that, if I'm feeling that way where I suggested it to my child and then I watched it, I'm like, whoa, that's making me blush. you know, then
Yeah.
that's a pretty dark show. Yeah, it does not pull any punches, that one.
Huh. I've not gotten much into anime or manga quite yet. Um,
It's interesting to kind of. I always liked comic books growing up, and it was more for the art. I was always kind of an art fan. Any city that I ever visited, the art museum was on the itinerary. So L.A., San Francisco, all these different cities I've been to the art museums. So I really like the art and manga. Really just combined the art and the storytelling for me, and I really enjoy it. Um, but yeah, moving forward, I'm just going to continue to take recommendations from people that are that maybe have different tastes. I saw you reading Hob, and you're like floored, and I'm like, dude, this,
bro.
I'm dying. I'm like, just wait till next year, dude. Like, if he loves it, I'll probably really like this author and the story. It's just I hear Assassin, the first one is a bit slow with a lot of setup, and I'll get through it, and I can't wait to jump in the Hob. And it was like, going forward, I'm taking suggestions from everybody that I'm seeing out there who knows me a little bit and feels my taste.
Yeah.
And I can just see your face that if I would be like, "Yo, should I try Hob?" You're like, "Dude, go get Hob now. Like, don't pass go. Just go get her now. She's awesome." And I can just, sense that from when you got on, and even in our Discord, you're like, "Guys, man, I'm in a slump. You know what? I'm gonna pick up Hob. That'll do it
Yeah.
for me." I'm like, wow, that's pretty dope. That you can have an author just to go to like that. And moving forward, I'm just gonna keep taking suggestions from people I trust, from even people that are in my comments. And
Yeah.
right now, this is, I guess, a good time. To say this, but in my Discord, guys, I have like, I don't know, six channels. What do we have? We have quite a few, right? We have a
We have a
bunch
lot.
of people. We have a bunch of booktubers from the 2003 class of 2003, and I'm having them suggest me one book, one standalone. Doesn't have to be in fantasy or anything, and I'm gonna, delegate a winner at the end of next year. After I read every book that they have suggested me, I have Colin, which one did you had Misery.
Misery.
Colin is going to suggest Misery for me. I have to read Misery next year. I have Nate suggesting The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. Christopher Nabo suggesting Snakewood. Um, Laura from Fantasy Awash suggesting Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Just talked
Uh,
about that one.
who else? Who did that? Somebody suggested
Caleb.
Pillars of Earth Sky. Caleb, I already had. So Pillars of Earth Sky is going to be suggested by Usman from Bards and Books. And then um, Carlos is suggesting Body Parts by
Boy parts, right?
Boy Parts. I'm sorry, I said Body
Yeah.
Parts. Boy Parts by somebody. And
Eliza
I
something.
Yeah. Caleb suggested The Boatman's Daughter. He told me the premise of that, and I was just like, bet, I'm going to get it. Matter of fact, I bought it. I went and I bought the book. It arrived just the other day. Um, and um, Robert from the Punk Rock Cereal Bowl has suggested Titanium Noir, which I have finished,
He
which was
loved that book.
very good. Was
Okay.
I am something DeCosco. Oh my! If you read it, you'll get what I'm saying. It was dope. Um, did I forget? I might have forgotten somebody, but yes,
Yolanda?
Yolanda is doing Savages by. I'm reading Savages by McDonald, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her favorite, Don Winslow. Don't let me get that wrong. Don Winslow, Savages. He's also doing that Border trilogy, which I've already bought. One of the books is up there. Don Winslow, The Power of the Doggy. I'm
Awesome.
gonna read that one. But yeah, I have most of you guys have all picked one. I'm gonna pick a winner by the end of next year, and you know, you'll get a prize or something.
Cool.
And you know what the prize is? You got to
I
host
don't.
me for the weekend. Like I'm just going to your town, and and I'm staying in your town, like, seeing what's out near you, and I'm staying at your house. All right. So
Dan's coming. Hey,
congratulations.
we got a couch for you, Dan.
That's all. I
um,
hope so. Thank you.
uh, let's see. Alicia says you both should try Monster the anime and the manga are amazing. I've heard good things about 'em. I think Philip actually and
Uh,
Murphy either read this or are working their way through it.
Jimmy is very impressed with Monster. So is
Okay,
Carlos, and so am I. I've read the first volume. I have the second volume next to my bed, which I'm going to
awesome.
pick up, I think, after Memories of Ice. I got a lot of books. I got a book haul back here that I'm really dying to get to. And I'm really, so like I said earlier, I started off doing, I found that Libby app, and you and I have been talking about the Libby app, and I've been telling you the tricks of the trade, right?
Yeah,
And I can show you on my phone where I have your library system and I have my library system on either side of the state.
that's really cool.
Yeah, you saw that, right? I had Carnegie.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and under it I had Philadelphia. So
I
I
didn't know
had
you could do
access.
that.
Yeah, all you have to do is get online. I actually did it for York County and they sent me the card via the
Oh
mail.
wow,
Yeah,
huh?
so I have York County in one of my apps as well, so that I have all that access. And I have been really enjoying trying to get used to audiobooking. And I've been doing that now while I work. Um, and now I realize that I love reading books more. But that
Yeah,
audiobook is cool every now and again, but I really like just kind of that whole focus thing of reading a book.
Shady Side Library. Misery is one of the best books I read this year. I was
Awesome.
like
Awesome.
anxiety filled the entire time. I was on the edge of my seat, like what is going to happen. I think you're gonna love it. If you like King,
Yeah,
it's
I've seen
like
the
as
movie,
classic
so
King as
I
you can
I
get.
totally I wish I wouldn't have seen the movie, and that's with King, at least they did every book of his has a movie, so I've growing up I've always seen them. I remember loving Pet Cemetery,
Yeah,
growing up and how scary. I remember being frightened to death of Cujo, growing up because of him, and Clowns. That show came that the TV series came out and back in the 90s and scared the living hell out of me. It
yeah,
was a made for TV movie or something, right? I
yeah.
think that's what
Yeah.
it was.
It was like 6 parts or something like that.
Yeah, and the funny part is they have the clown like off camera and he's like smoking a cigarette. Yeah, that's one of the best photos. That's a great photo. That's
It
really a
is a
great
great
photo.
photo.
Mhm.
Um, Alicia, yes. Excuse me. As you can see, we have a lot of fun over in
Yeah,
our
man,
Discord. So,
come on over,
um,
Alicia. Oh, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to join the spear that cuts through water. Read along.
I'm gonna
You're
link
gonna
it
love this
in the
book.
description.
She actually
She
mentioned
also,
this one. Hmm.
yeah, I would. She thinks you would like Jonathan Strange and Mister Norrell. Now,
It
Alicia
keeps
and I
popping up.
believe are going to be doing a chat about this book um, sometime in December or early next year. And this was it's a it's a chunker. It's a big book,
Is it?
and yeah, it's a very big book.
Okay.
Uh, it's so this is one of the first books that really showed me how audiobooks can improve the reading experience because when I started reading this, I read the first like 2 or 300 pages of this physically only, and I was not picking up on the humor that was
Okay.
in the book throughout. I was reading it much in a much more serious tone than it was actually being. When I heard the audiobook narrator, the way that they were doing the intonation and the way that they were reading the
Yes.
quotes and the dialogue, I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is like more lighthearted than I was reading it." And it like improved my
Okay.
I was like kind of on
I
the fence about it. And then I
I
was like,
have it.
"Oh, this is great."
I have it at my library. I think I can get it
Okay.
right now. So I'm glad you guys said it. that the audiobook is good because I've been
Yeah, I it was great.
perusing, to find, um, once I think it's first person stories with audiobook that is easier to follow. But maybe it all depends. The narrator really helps things in this. I'm gonna say that I read some of this, but I listened to most of it on audiobook.
Okay,
And this is difficult though. So I would like play a whole chapter and I would literally play it again because I didn't want to
mm,
miss anything. And I was kind of like working and stuff like that. And I would play it again. And then I would finally get like a little time to take a walk. And then I would play that whole chapter one more time and I'd really get it all. So
just soaking it in.
yeah, I rewound this and rewound this quite often until I got to the end. And I would say like a month later, I picked up the audiobook again and I listened to it because
Wow. Okay.
the audiobook really, and within my video, I talk about like the psychedelic, but the, the way the audiobook is done, it really provides that cadence and a magical, tone. And it really flowed very well. And when the POV shifts, because some of them in this book are quite abrupt, like you're reading a whole chapter in one POV, and then it'll break, the paragraph will break, and then you'll pop down like a couple tabs, and then there'll be like a short line from like another person.
Huh.
So it's really cool. So what it's kind of like this. I'm not going to give you the whole thing, but it's like the emperor is walking down the stairs to his amazing kingdom, his amazing castle, right? And he's talking about the people who constructed the basement and how intricate and good they were. And he's just like, yeah, so they did all this wonderful work, and when they were done, I didn't want anybody to know about the basement, so I killed them all. And right after he says that, it'll go to the people he killed. At,
Wow.
wait, as a brick, because
No way.
instead of making it known that they killed them, they just turned them into bricks and put them in the wall.
Wow.
And you could hear the guy goes, I used to be a doctor, but now I'm a brick. And it's
Wow.
that quick. So it's like very quirky. It's very I would say I think that the British humor, people do that a lot.
That's what I was missing with
Uh,
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
yeah, they do. I'm trying to Monty Python.
Like,
That's what I was looking for. And
okay.
they're kind of walking and they're having their own conversation, and like somebody in the background will just jump up and be like, "Yeah," or something, and say something funny, and then just disappear. You know what I mean? It had that with throughout the
Okay.
book, and you really needed to, catch it. And I think the audiobook does an excellent job because the voice changes when it's like, I was a brick. Now he's like, I was a doctor and I built this beautiful basement and now I'm a brick. And it's like, you understood that POV shift
Okay.
and, and that, like, and now I'm a brick. Like you wouldn't hear that, when you read. And, I think that's some things like, I believe, Laura just brought up British humor, Pratchett. He really did that well. Um,
Yes.
these POV shifts and this British humor. Um, I was trying to, yeah, the British humor. It was hard for you to get, and if you didn't understand the cadence and how it was said, you would totally miss it. You would have to read it again in a different way, in a different, cadence, or tone, and it would make a little more sense. And
Okay.
Pratchett is a genius at that. He's very sarcastic, and you need to know when he is being sarcastic within his wording.
Gaiman. I know Laura is a huge fantasy watch of Neil Gaiman,
Gaiman's on the
which
list, man.
he's a big reason why I want to get to more Neil Gaiman. And I think you've sold Nate and me successfully in joining in this read along officially.
Guys, I'm telling
Um,
you, this guy does something different. Um, and that's just something that I absolutely adore is for authors to take risks. Give me something that I really haven't felt or seen before. And Simon Jimenez just does that exceptionally well in this book.
Cool. So we've touched on, what kind of keeps you coming back to reading throughout this a little bit. The speechless moments, the finding new authors like Jimenez, and just the the truly personal journey of reading, and um, what keeps you coming back to basketball after all these years, and how the league has changed. You've got to see a lot of different iterations of NBA basketball. You've got to be different fans of different eras, and what keeps you coming back as a Sixers fan, and wanting to watch what they're doing right
Yeah.
now.
There's, there's just something about sports and basketball in general that's just a part of me. Philadelphia sports in that respect. Um, my great grandmother, who came over in a boat from Ellis Island, moved down to Philadelphia and was a practice. Come
Talk
on, we
about
talk about
practice.
practice. I hope that's what I'm pretty sure that's what she was saying. She's Laura's hysterical, dude.
That's a good
Um,
call.
uh-huh. So yeah, it was just like every Philadelphia sport is just embedded into my blood. Like I say, I bleed green for Philadelphia sports, and I follow all my teams even when they're are shit. Um, and that's just the way it's always been. And when I watch it, and the Eagles won a Super Bowl. That was the first Super Bowl. Like I got upset because I grew up with a whole bunch of people that never got to see that. Like my grandmother, my great grandmother, they were all huge Eagles fans. My aunt, my mom, my dad, most of my family were all huge Eagles fans, and only my brother and I got to see them win that. And I'm not, when they won, my first call was to my brother. Oh my God, dude, Laura would have loved this, and it's kind of ingrained into who we are, and it's just it'll always be something that my family has in common that we can talk about. On Facebook, like my other cousins and stuff, they're all Eagles fans, man. That's what we have in common.
Yeah.
Um, and that's to kind of bring it on back. That's kind of why I entered BookTube to find people to have these kind of experiences was something that I loved. And like when you suggest a book to me, you're the first person I hit up who's like, dude, I'm reading Dark Tower because you suggested it to me. So you were automatic. You're like, yeah, Dan, and all of a sudden that feeling we have it. It's going. It's
Yep.
like, oh, tell me how. And then you're like, dude, my mom's reading. I'm like, yo, tell your mom, who is cooler than you, that she is again cooler than you because she's reading The Dark Tower and she's a Grateful Dead fan. you know, so
Yep.
we're starting this dialogue and developing these experiences, and even with sports, they can give me that high,
Oh yeah.
that and being on top of the world, and picking my jaw up on the floor because I couldn't believe what just happened, or making me think harder, like what should they go zone, should they go man here, like making me think
Yeah.
harder about books as well. So all these things, they definitely kind of relate in certain ways, and I love that we have both of that. I love basketball, and I can talk shit about the Bulls when they come into my town to you, and you'll probably beat us, and you could talk shit to me. And now with
I
the
don't know about that.
yeah, with the books, it's just when you guys, especially when you suggest something to me, and I pick it up because you suggested it, and then I start reading it. There's like a connection kind of built right there. Like wow, he knew I would like this, and I definitely do. You know, like I said, you were the first person that I hit up. Was like, yo, I'm reading the Dark Tower, man, and
Man, I was
yeah,
so happy.
yeah, we were just, you built these connections and stuff like that, and I really enjoy that. I just there's, a high with reading and a high with sports, and I love them both.
Yeah, I think Laura kind of beautifully touched on it. Sports fundamentally bond people. You can have nothing else in common but a love for the game or a community spirit, and it brings you together and creates a bond. And, that was in a nutshell kind of why I decided on starting this specific show because these are two things that express my two of my biggest loves, two of my biggest hobbies, two of my biggest pastimes. And sports and books have been a bridger of generations for me. I mean, my mom grew up loving reading and she passed that love of reading down to me. And my grandpa and my dad and my mom loved pit basketball was my origin story for basketball growing up, and that blossomed into just a love of the game in general. And now I've got my own family and I'm passing on my love of basketball to my family. My daughter's got a Vucevic jersey, a Caruso jersey. We're
That's great.
screaming at the TV together. And as bad as the Bulls are, like there was times, especially like last year and a couple years ago when DeRozan hit those like back-to-back buzzer beaters. And my wife and I were watching that game and like running around my room
Yeah, like you don't
like
forget that.
whisper screaming because we didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to wake up our daughter. And then
Yep.
the next game he does it the next day. He's like, there's no way he does it again, and he does it again, and it's like, oh my god. And now I'm passing my love of reading on to my daughter. So these two things have been a bridger of generations for me, and they've been very, very important in my life. And I think, I wanted to share that and find some other people like you who share similar interests. We've got a book sale because of you,
Uh,
Dan.
I'm telling you, you won't regret it. You got your money's worth already. I'm telling you. But yeah, so I
um,
just, I'm I've been a stepfather for about 4 years. Look, five, about 5 years now, and that bond is developing between myself and the youngest, and he is starting to get into Eagles, and I don't even think I can express how I
yep,
feel about that. It's just it's always been I've lost all that side of my family. And things like that. By the time I was 30, and my brother and I, because of things that way, things that anyway. My brother and I don't get to see each other as much as we do, but now, I have a family and I'm developing this sports bond with my youngest son, Noah, who, he loves basketball and football, and I'm going out there having a cat. Like I can't say he asked me to go throw the football, and I can't say I can't say no. I
yeah,
do. I want to. It's freezing outside. It's dark. There's cars running up and down my street. But that's something I've always wanted. Whether with if I had a girl, it would have been the same thing. She would have been out there even throwing a football. You know what I mean? It's if
yep,
that's what she wanted to do, is what I'm saying. But it's just it's amazing that I'm just sitting there watching him watch the Eagles game and cheer loud for it. Oh, dude, we watched the Super Bowl, him and I. This is the best, right? We were watching the Super Bowl, and we used to do this thing on the TV when it was a big kick, like a big field goal, and we did not want it to go in. We used to go up to the TV and go and try to, and when it kicked, you had to blow at the right time, and if you didn't blow at the right time, that it was your fault it went in, right? And during the Super Bowl, I'm like, dude, come on, come on. I brought him up. He's like, what? I'm like, dude, blow the kick this way. And we did it. We blew the kick that way, and the kicker missed it.
he'll
And
never
now
forget that.
I'm telling you, I will never forget that. I'm telling you that I and now we have to hold it. That was in the Super Bowl. We can only do it once in a while because once in a while it'll work. But yeah, that was just amazing, and yeah, I love sharing my love of sports with whoever, especially now that I'm a father.
Yeah. Well, that was beautifully said. Real quick, Britain wants to know: Are you still reading Born?
I am still reading Born. It is a wacky one. I was doing Born on audio, Britain. I think I might be able to get through it all the way on audio. Let's just say it's a wacky one. I am enjoying it. I am enjoying it though.
That's the magic of the bond, says Laura. Yes, you create a collective and core memory that goes beyond the game. Yes,
For
100%.
sure.
And basketball specifically and reading have been exactly that, especially for my stepdaughter and I. And um, speaking of which, it's about that time where I need to go read to her and get her to bed. So I just want to take a second, Dan, specifically, and thank you for being my very first guest on Books
Oh,
and
it's my
Basketball.
pleasure. Thanks
And
for
I want
asking.
to, yeah, absolutely. I want to thank everybody. This is a better turnout than I expected with a title like Books and Basketball on BookTube. You guys in the chat have been absolutely amazing. And I think I've got enough guests in the back pocket now that have showed some interest that will be able to keep this thing going. And if you guys know anybody, any other booktubers that are a fan of obviously books and basketball, feel free to leave a comment in the video on the rerun if you're watching this. But Dan, do you want to take a second and tell all these wonderful people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Goodreads, Black and Blue Collar Reader. You can find me on YouTube. Same thing, Black and Blue Collar Reader. I do things every now and again when I want to. I'll put out something to make you laugh, hopefully. Um, yeah, that's where you can find me. I also do Twitter. You can find me at Dan Els on Twitter, if you'd like.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Dan, for stopping by, and thank you everybody in the chat one more time. I hope you guys are all enjoying what you're currently reading, and remember, you are always welcome in Colin's Corner.